Hi, I'm John, and welcome to the Jigsaw Puzzler. As today we look at the second Bepuzzled mystery puzzle that I've presented on this channel. Today's puzzle is Agatha Christie's The Theft of the Royal Ruby. It's a 1,000-piece puzzle from Bepuzzled, and it includes a book and the jigsaw puzzle. As I said, this is the second of these puzzles that I have presented on this channel, and I will be doing a comparison with the other one that I did earlier, the Orient Express puzzle. All right, so the box is quite a large box, and when you open it, of course, you find that there is a book inside the box. There is no image on the box to describe what the picture itself looks like. So with these mystery puzzles, you have to just take the pieces and put them together sight unseen. Okay, just a warning, this episode is going to contain spoilers. It will contain full images of the puzzle, and I will probably be discussing some of the solution to the puzzle, the story in the book. So let's start with the story. It is called The Theft of the Royal Ruby. It is an Hercule Poirot story, and this is an original Agatha Christie story. It was originally published in a collection of short stories called Double Sin and Other Stories. So Agatha Christie herself wrote the puzzle and wrote the story that goes with this puzzle. It's a 96-page book, so a full-length short story. So if we go through the book, we read the story up to a certain point and then it stops. The instructions at the bottom of the page say stop here, assemble the puzzle and help Poirot solve the mystery. And after that, we get the rest of the story, which gives us the solution and a short biography of Agatha Christie. And then, of course, some advertising. All right, so there's the book and then the puzzle pieces. All right, let's have a talk about the quality of this puzzle. The pieces are very sturdy, really nice thick cardboard and beautiful to work with. It is an unusually fitting puzzle. I would say it's a loose fit. You can sort of pick bits up. You'd never be able to pick it all up in a sort of a pickup test, but it is quite a loose fit. There are also quite a number of false fits. So you'll see if you watch the time lapse that I do misplace a few pieces and have to put them in somewhere else. And there was one section here with this, there's a car in the background through the window where I actually had entire sections of that just completely put together incorrectly and had to redo that. So there are a number of false fits, I feel, here in this puzzle. But it's not too bad, to be honest, in terms of frustration levels. I will say it is a ribbon cut puzzle, but I will say that it's not a straightforward ribbon cut. When you get a ribbon cut puzzle, so they're in rows and columns, nice and neat rows and columns, the lines that go across the puzzle and down the puzzle all line up with each other. In this puzzle, they don't. There are some parts. Well, they do, but they don't. In some parts they do, mostly they do, but there are some sections, and I've taken a close-up photograph of a couple of sections just to illustrate this, where you get a step in the line between two adjoining pieces. And that is a little bit off-putting because you do wonder, well, is this the right piece in the right spot? It turns out that it probably is, but I think a number of the false fits came about because of this quite disconcerting step in the line that creates the rows and the columns. I wasn't a real fan of that. Okay, some of the tabs fit in quite tightly, some of them much more loosely. It is quite a glossy puzzle, so doing it under the lights was a little bit distracting, but on the whole, it's quite a nice puzzle to do. Obviously, with no image on the box, I had no idea what the picture was that I was putting together, and that makes it really, really interesting. Even for those people who like to do puzzles without referring to the picture on the box, you actually know what the picture is to begin with, and so your brain can start the sorting in your head of just generalized colors and things just because you've seen the picture on the box. Not so with this one. I had no idea what was going to be here. It's an artwork. It's a painted artwork. I think D. Craig, I don't know whether it's he or she, D. Craig has put their name here in very faint writing here as the artist. And it's a pretty nice picture on the whole. Lots of colours and textures. Now, we'll just take a view around the image first, and then we'll talk in more detail about not just the strategies that I used to do this puzzle, but also a comparison with the Orient Express puzzle. Okay, so around the puzzle, at the bottom here in the middle, we have a bowl. It's a pudding bowl. It's got a mixture of Christmas pudding mix in it, unbaked, with what looks like a piece of folded paper sort of floating on the top of it, and a spoon handle sticking out of it. There is a divot in the pudding mix where something has been taken out of it. And we can guess from the title, The Theft of the Royal Ruby, that that's where the ruby was hidden. It was baked into Christmas pudding, spoiler alert. Okay, so the ruby itself appears here in the hands of this child riding a rocking horse. I'll talk about the rocking horse in a little while. It makes no appearance in the story itself. Children do, and children are quite key to the solving of the mystery in the story. But the rocking horse, nothing to do with the story. There are a group of books here on the side. The Last Laugh by A. Roos, Proofs in the Pudding, The Fake Jewel, and in between, slotted in between, is a playing card, a joker, shoved in between two of the books. So here are some clues about what might have gone on in the puzzle and gone on in the story. The proof is in the pudding. There's something missing from the pudding. The child is holding up the ruby. I would have guessed from this that the ruby was hidden in the pudding mix. Further around the room, we have some pine cones and holly. So we can assume that it's Christmas time. It does say Merry Christmas on the base of the rocking horse. This is a mantelpiece that's on, but the mantelpiece seems to morph into a bookshelf, which seems to morph into a table. So I'm not quite sure visually what's going on here with the artist. It's a little bit confusing, because if this were the mantelpiece, the books would be enormous. If this was a bookshelf, then what's all this up here? Has the mantelpiece been converted into bookshelves? I don't know. Red curtain in the background with a Christmas ornament of an angel, a Cupid in fact, because holding a bow and blindfolded, dangling from the corner of the mantelpiece. And then on top of the mantelpiece are a pair of rose-coloured glasses, a painting or photograph or a portrait of a woman who seems to be wearing the ruby, and her eyes are looking towards the ceramic piece that is next to her, which has a portrait of a man on it, which seems to be looking at her. Quite a strange arrangement up here of a man and a woman looking at each other. I'm not quite sure what that's about. In the middle, we have an open window with diamond-shaped window panes and glazing bars in between. There's a car in the background, and it is receding from us. It's driving away from the house into a forest. There are two Christmas trees, there's snow, another curtain, and there are two hands holding the curtain, one holding the curtain open and one pointing to the car. Well, is it pointing to the car or is it pointing to the ruby? Bit unclear. The hand is opening the curtain as if to look out and point, but the finger itself is pointing towards the ruby. Down the bottom we have a whistle. Okay, and that's it for the details on the puzzle. So it's a relatively simple image with just various elements around the picture. I found this quite a challenging puzzle to do. It was difficult because it was hard to know I didn't know what went where, and I didn't know what was what. I pulled out all the edge pieces first. So my strategy usually is to pull out the edges, and I did the edge so I knew how big it was, and I had some idea of some of the colours and textures that were around the edge. So I could tell probably that there was an outdoor scene with trees and sky, because there's some blue there, and then red on either side to me said there were red curtains. Here, I really didn't know what was going on here. There seemed to be, well, there was a couple of faces, so potentially pictures of people, but I didn't really know. And then down the side here is the spine of one of the books, which you can't see the title of. And so I knew that there were books involved. And as I'm pulling the edge pieces out, the next easiest piece to do were the words, the titles of these books. Now, I didn't know whether the books were all together or separate around the picture. So I just pieced those and pulled out the words, started piecing them together, and then it became obvious that the books, in fact, were stacked next to each other. But were they upright or sideways? I didn't know. Then with this book down the side here, I thought, well, they're probably leaning up with this one here, so they would go over here. Down the bottom, I noticed this goldish rim around the edge of the pudding bowl. So I did pull some of that out. And the other thing that I pulled out, and I really wanted to reduce the number of pieces in my sorting trays, I did pull out all of the pieces for the glazing bar, or as many as I could find. Now, there were many more that I missed, but as many as I could find, because I could see that there were these diagonal lines with a white background, and I just assumed, having read the story, that the white was going to be snow, therefore these were going to be glazing bars, and that they would go together somehow. So I did pull those out, and then I pulled out all the white pieces, which I assumed were going to be the snow, and put them over here, just to clear some of the things out of the sorting trays. I did put some of the glazing bar pieces together, quite a bit, probably about half of it, but I really struggled with it. It was quite tough, particularly when I didn't know where the edge was, or if there was anything like this finger or the spoon handle in front of them, and what was behind them. I didn't know there was a car here. I could tell that there was probably going to be trees because of the edge pieces, but I didn't know how far down they came. There were these green tufty patches, which I didn't know whether they were grass growing throughout the snow, or they turned out to be the Christmas trees in the garden, but I didn't know that at the time. So that I left the white and the glazing bars after a while and moved on to some of the other colours. What I looked for were lines, distinct lines that separated distinct colours or patterns. So there is an upright here with the red, deep red of the curtains here, and this sort of bluish green of the mantelpiece on the other side of it, and a very distinct line that I could build there. So that gave me a colour on either side to work with. Again, this colour up here, the top of the mantelpiece and the bottom of it, so I could make a strip there. This section is a bit bluer than this. This is a little bit more yellow-green. This is a bit more blue-green. There's the edge of the tray down here with its patterning. There's this blue-green section here, little diagonal section here. And then the horse, of the rocking horse, it was obvious that there were pieces of something, and I didn't know what. And I started to find bits of that, and it formed a leg, and I thought, right, this is a horse, probably a rocking horse, because there were the green sleds underneath it. I found the face of the child and parts of the angel. Didn't really know how they related to each other, but with the angel, we could go around the edges with the red background. The head of the child also has the red background. The purple of the child's outfit is very distinctive. It's not anywhere else on the puzzle, so that I could pull those handful of pieces out quite easily. But there were a few misleading parts. The pink or red on the rose-coloured glasses and the pink of the curtain here, very similar. Obviously the red over here and the red here, very similar. This one has a diagonal stripe to it as it's being pulled back, so that did help. and this one is completely vertical. The trees, terribly confusing. I could see edges of trees with sky and piece some of those together in long strips, but how they assembled together was very confusing. And this car, I had no idea what it was. I could see that there were bits of something metallic. It had that metallic look to it with shine, lines of shine and things on it. Really didn't know what I was looking at. Started to piece some together, and I thought, well, still don't really know what it is. It's kind of like a car, and it turns out it is. But that was quite baffling, even though there's not actually that many pieces there. The holly, green with red edges, that came together relatively straightforward. And even the curtains here with the red, they're in stripes because of the shadows in the folds. So there's light and dark and light and dark, and using those lines of colour to piece it together was enormously helpful. The hands, well, I could see that there were brown pieces, golden brown pieces in the puzzle. I found a piece here with a fingernail on it. I thought, right, there's a hand. So I managed to grab that and then pull out the golden brown pieces. So they either belonged, and I knew that there was a hand here because it had a white background, and then it came up to the glazing bars. And so I knew that there was a finger here and a hand in this part of the puzzle. What I didn't know was there was actually a second hand. So I had all the pieces for the hands and the pudding mix and pudding bowl, and they are the same colours and quite similar textures. So it took a little bit of effort to sort out. I did the pudding base first, I think, then this hand, but I was piecing together the fingers of this other one, assuming that the fingers went here, that the hand was wrapped around itself somehow, and that the fingers were tucked underneath. I was quite wrong about that because I kept filling more and more in here and the fingers didn't go anywhere. So I thought, where is the hand? But if I'd paid attention to the edge pieces, I would have seen the knuckles here along the edge. And eventually I saw that and I thought, there they are. And holding out open the curtain. The hands are a little bit tricky. It actually wasn't as difficult as I imagined. Filling in the white towards the end, that was a bit tricky. I had to do some shape sorting and just piece at a time kind of thing. There are variations in the white. There are shadows from the Christmas tree in the car. There's a bit more bluish up the back here, a bit more white in the middle, and just different patches. This is quite blue on this side. Different patches of shading in the white. So yeah, challenging, but not as difficult as if it had been all white. All right. So that's around the puzzle and a description of the image. Let's compare it to the Orient Express puzzle. This is also by Bepuzzled, so the same company, different shape box, different series. I think there are only 2 in the Agatha Christie series, but there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 in this Bepuzzled series. Now, how would I compare them? Well, I would come down on the side of the Theft of the Royal Ruby as a higher quality puzzle. The image is much nicer. The image is much better as a puzzling image to do. This one, the Orient Express, is a collage. And so some elements of it are actually quite out of focus. And some elements are really clear, which I really don't like puzzles that are out of focus, especially collage ones where they have some elements in focus and some out of focus. I find that really quite disturbing. And so I would prefer this one, the painted image, to the collaged one. Secondly, the story in the Orient Express one is, quite frankly, tripe. It's absolute rubbish. It's only, it's 10 pages long, 8 pages plus the solution, and it was not written by Agatha Christie. It was made up by somebody for the purposes of this puzzle. It does contain Hercule Poirot, but it's, literarily speaking, it's complete tripe. The story that goes with The Theft of the Royal Ruby was actually written by Agatha Christie, so it has that genuine mystery story feel to it. and you know that it's been written by the author herself. The piece quality of the Orient Express one, very, very thin compared to the Theft of the Royal Ruby. In fact, it's close to half to 2/3 of the thickness of the Royal Ruby, and I find that to be a really good thing in the favour of doing the Royal Ruby one over the Orient Express. Yeah, so it's this is a better image, a better story, an actual Agatha Christie mystery rather than this sort of spin-off playing on the Murder on the Orient Express, and much better quality pieces. All right, so we've been around the puzzle. I've talked a little bit how I've done it. I've compared it to the old one, the other one. I have a third one to go, the Alfred Hitchcock mystery. I'm expecting that because it's in the same series as the Orient Express, that it will be of a similar quality and probably have a really dreadful story to go with it. However, I'm pleased that the Agatha Christie one has gone so well, and it is a really nice image. The challenge is, of course, I didn't know what I was looking at. I had no idea what was going to be in the image, and the Orient Express one, I would say in its favour, had a lot more variety of textures and colours in it, so it did make it easier to put sections together even if you didn't know how they related to each other. This one has great banks of colour that are all very similar, and all this white here, of course, that made it a bit more of a challenge to know where it went and how it fitted together. All right, I am going to show a time lapse. It does show the whole puzzle at the end. So if you don't want to see the full image, then play a bit of it and stop. Otherwise, I have given things away a little bit. I haven't talked about the solution to the story. Yeah, okay. So how does this relate to the solution of the story? And how does that compare to the Orient Express? Well, this is a 96-page story, and the solution itself goes on for 12 pages, the ending of the story. I don't think that you can deduce the solution to the story, or at least not the whole solution to the story, from the puzzle. What you can deduce is that the ruby that had been stolen was to be cooked, was found in the pudding mix of the Christmas pudding. I think there's enough clues. There's a finger pointing at the ruby, there's a kid holding the ruby, the proof is in the pudding book, and we've got the pudding mix with the divot taken out of it to show that's probably where the ruby was hidden. What it doesn't tell you is that the ruby wasn't found until after the pudding was cooked and was served up at the end of Christmas dinner. So the picture doesn't depict what happened in the story. We should have had a full pudding cut into slices, or a slice cut out of it with a piece missing where the ruby was. Secondly, the child didn't find the ruby. There are 3 children in the story, and they stage a murder for the benefit of Hercule Poirot, a kind of bit of entertainment for him. He cottons onto this and helps, and that one of them, Bridget, helps Poirot to solve the theft of the ruby, as well as having the kids stage this fake murder. The car going off in the distance, what can we deduce from that? Well, we don't really know from the puzzle, but from the story, the person who stole the ruby thinks they've gotten away with the real ruby, but there is this clue here, the fake jewel on this book. He's running off with a fake one, whereas Poirot has retained the real one and hidden it with one of the children. Yeah, so we can't really deduce what's happening in the whole story from this. Poirot receives a mysterious note in the story warning him not to eat the Christmas pudding, but that's just a red herring, a side issue. I think the piece of paper here on the top is a reference to that, but there's no writing on it, so we can't really tell. It was assumed, somebody overheard, one of the cooks overheard the baddies talking about, it's in the pudding. She thought that there was poison in the pudding and was warning Poirot not to eat it because she thought it was poisoned, when what they actually meant was the ruby was in the pudding. The two people up the top here, an ostensible brother and sister in the story. They're not really brother and sister. They are the Crims in this whole enterprise. The rose-coloured glasses, no idea what that means. No reference to it in the story at all, and nobody is particularly looking at things through rose-coloured glasses. The whistle, likewise down the bottom, no idea what that means. No reference to a whistle in the story at all. I wanted to talk about the rocking horse. Yeah. We'll have a quick look at this rocking horse and the child holding the ruby on top of it. And it seems to me that the rocking horse, the whole thing was cut out from another image and stuck on. But it's not made to look like a collage. It just appears this way. And how can I tell that? Well, if we look at the floor underneath, or the area under the rocking horse, we've got what looks like timber boards, as if the rocking horse is on the floor. But the boards only go to the edge of the horse. They fill in all the space, whereas if this were a genuine rocking horse, we would be able to see through that to the books and the mantelpiece on the other side, and to the top of the tray that it's sitting on. Likewise, the reins of the horse here, where the child is holding the reins, we should be able to look through there, and that should be red, the colour of the curtains, and the underneath of the horse's head, between its neck and its chest, or upper body, that we should be able to see through that too, but it's not, it's brown. So it looks like the whole thing has been cut out of another image and stuck on. I wonder if the artist started with something and was unhappy with the way it was going, but was happy with this bit and managed to sort of work it in here. Anyhow, just a little anomaly, and a few spoilers for you. We will have the time lapse, so thank you for watching. If you'd like to click like, subscribe and share, I'd really appreciate that. And on with the time lapse.